Hey guys, what is up? It's Kat here. Thank you all so much for coming back today. I hope you have been doing well. Today we are going to be discussing my opinions of the Mandalorian television series on Disney+, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I figured it would be fun to just sit down and chat about how I felt about the show overall, my thoughts on the finale, and of course, who doesn't love some good talk of Baby Yoda? Oh my god! So yes, if that is something that you would be interested in seeing, then keep on watching. Of course, this goes without saying, but I'm sorry to all of my European followers out there who do not have a VPN and haven't watched the show yet, but this might not be the video for you if you don't want anything to be spoiled. So I do apologize because I know Disney Plus is not available across the globe just yet. So, but for those of you who have seen it, of course, no worries. But if you don't want anything to be spoiled, then please don't keep watching. I think I will start with the very brief list of cons that I have regarding my thoughts on the show. It's very brief. If anything, I think my biggest complaint is that I just wish everything about the show was longer. The total number of episodes, I wish there were more than 8. I wish the episodes were like each an hour long, but of course that's just me being spoiled and selfish and just wanting absolutely more. But I did find that some of the episodes that were shorter than 40 minutes just felt too short for me. I went into the show thinking that it was, I guess, gonna be like Game of Thrones and each episode was going to be like super extended and an hour long, but overall, like, that is just a very brief complaint. Like, if anything, it just speaks to the fact that I just wanted more always. In terms of the overall plot itself, in terms of the Mandalorian forsaking his guild values in order to spare Baby Yoda and save him, I know that some people have a complaint that episodes 4 through 6 don't really do much to advance that plot per se, which I do agree with. I guess I had kind of maybe craved a little bit more of just a consecutive plot line rather than each episode kind of being like a Rebels or a Clone Wars episode, the ones that are kind of just random and they start with a new slate, like this is the problem and this is the resolution. Next episode, like this is the problem, this is the resolution. Maybe I just wanted a little bit more consistency and not having each of those middle like episodes there like feeling so random and not really having correlation between each other. But even though those episodes themselves individually don't necessarily pertain to an overarching plot of the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda trying to figure out what the heck they're gonna do, I do think they successfully advance his character development and show that he is constantly acquiring enemies and kind of defying his code values, but he is still a man of honor, and it shows that he is willing to do whatever in order to protect little baby Yodster. I'm not gonna call him that. And I think it also shows that he didn't exactly like have a plan. He mutinies against his guild and then escapes with Baby Yoda and completely breaks his deal and completely defies, you know, the life that he had always lived as a member of the bounty hunting guild. And it shows that he did all that for the sake of protecting and saving Baby Yoda, but even he doesn't necessarily have a plan as to what he was gonna do. He just kind of like did all that very impulsively and then is like, oh, well, I don't know what to do now. That lack there with those 3 episodes of kind of an overarching plot, it feels, kind of speaks to the fact that not even the Mandalorian himself had a plan or had a vision. He just knew that he wanted to protect Baby Yoda from whatever it was that they were going to do to him. I think those 3 episodes do speak to his character development and to the fact that he doesn't necessarily even have a plan himself. But I think overall I maybe had just hoped for a little bit more consistency there and less of like random individualized episodes that didn't necessarily correlate with one another. But that's not even that big of an issue for me. I'd say my biggest qualm is that I wish Moff Gideon had been introduced earlier within the series. It kind of feels like he shows up there in episode 7 and you're like, oh wait, like the next episode is the finale and we're just now meeting this guy. Like they kind of like throw him in there and they're like, this is the overarching bad guy now, and it kind of feels like he doesn't seem that much of a threat because we don't know anything about him and he's just now showing up out of the blue and the next episode is the finale. Like, yeah. So if anything, that's maybe another reason why I wish the series had perhaps been 10 episodes instead of 8. Maybe just to further expand upon Moff Gideon, why Baby Yoda is such an important asset to him and why he's targeting him so much. I don't know. I just didn't feel very threatened by Moff Gideon when he was first introduced until the very end, of course, which I will get to. All right, now moving on to the things that I loved about the show, which there were so many. Overall, I really enjoyed the series. Other than those few minor complaints, like I just loved every single episode, really, and I just thought overall it was just freaking awesome. It was everything that I wanted it to be, honestly. In terms of the marketing going into the show, I really loved that we couldn't even like guess the plot if we tried. Like we had little to no idea as to what was going to go down in this show, which I really liked. I loved going into it, having absolutely no idea what was going to happen, like just a very open mind, literally having no guesses at all. I loved that, and I'm very happy that that's how they like advertised the show and that they didn't reveal too much about the plot. For me, it just made everything more enjoyable going into it, not having any preconceived notions about the plot or literally anything at all. And the show itself almost kind of reminds me of the Battlefront 2 campaign a little bit. In terms of how that was advertised, it was like, oh, you're going to be playing as the Empire, and you're going to be the bad guy, and it's like swapped roles for once. And then the campaign, the plot like switches a little bit, and all of the notions that you had about how the campaign was going to go down totally changed, because we go into it thinking we're going to be playing as the Empire, and then they change their mind and then they switch to the Rebellion. And it's like, oh, okay, so everything that I knew and guessed and thought about this campaign is totally changed, and now I have no idea what's happening. I felt like similarly here with The Mandalorian, because he shows up those first few episodes and is portrayed as this stereotypical bounty hunter. He's very stoic and emotionless, and it doesn't seem like he has any connections to anything, but he's a little bit tortured by his past, so he's kind of got that angst there, but it seems like he tries to smother it. That's his vibe. And then everything that we think about him and all of these preconceived notions we have about him as a Mandalorian and a bounty hunter are then completely like dismantled throughout the show as it goes on. And I like that. I like that he kind of does that switch there, and it's like, oh my gosh, we thought this was going to be a show about a bounty hunter like slaying people, but in reality then it swaps on us, and it turns out to be more about the development of his protective relationship over Baby Yoda and the lengths that he will go to and the enemies that he will acquire in order to keep Baby Yoda safe and just avoid being captured. So that's like the situation here with the Mandalorian. Like he totally swaps and forsakes his guild values, and then it's like, oh wow, like everything that I expected about this show, like I couldn't have even guessed where it was going to go from there. So that made me really happy that I had absolutely no idea what the show was going to be about. What I liked is how mysterious it was that we technically don't know what the Mandalorian looks like, even though of course, you know, if you had seen the cast, it was obvious that it was Pedro Pascal, but don't actually know who he is, and we keep getting these like brief snippets of his backstory, but overall he is still himself a very mysterious figure, and we're trying to like crack his code a little bit. So yeah, I liked that. I think it would have been like cool or like insane if they had like not revealed who was playing the Mandalorian. It obviously would have sucked for Pedro Pascal, like doing all of the like red carpet events, like he couldn't show himself, like that would have stunk. But I think it would have been so interesting if they hadn't actually like revealed the cast and we actually like truly didn't know who his identity was. But like that aside, we still technically had this mysterious main character, this protagonist here that we knew very little about, which I thought was really cool, because it's not very often that you are watching a TV show or something like that and the protagonist himself is still a very like hidden reclusive and we don't know too much about him. His mysteriousness throughout the whole show was really interesting, and it continuously fed into us just wanting to know more about why he is so protective over Baby Yoda, and then we get that realization when we learn the entirety of his backstory. Throwback to when I said this show looked like really dark and violent and graphic and mature based on the first trailer that I had seen. And it looks surprisingly dark for Disney standards. I truly thought this show was gonna be like very dark and violent, and some parts of it were, but just like Baby Yoda, oh my gosh. But I love that even people who like don't watch Star Wars know who he is. He's like a little celeb. He's so cute. I want to adopt him. I love him. The music, the soundtrack in this show is maybe my favorite part of the entire thing. I think it's so fitting. I just think it's so fitting for the vibe of the show, the kind of settings that we get to see. It still very much feels like a Star Wars soundtrack, but it's so different. My like favorite moment in the finale, when the Mandalorian is there as a child and he's having that flashback to being hidden in that great thing, and then the door opens and it's the droid, but then a Mandalorian, a Death Watch person comes and kills the droid, and then that like electric guitar is playing. Oh my god, that is like sick. I've rewatched that so many times, just that part, because I absolutely love the music in that scene. Yeah, I love how different this music is, like with different sounds and instruments. I thought the soundtrack is just amazing. Overall, I thought the costuming and hair and makeup was insane. I really loved seeing so many new, just different species and creatures. I always love that about Star Wars, just like seeing more expansions of the universe. Seeing some of those characters in live action, like the LaSalle cat, that was so sick to see. I think a lot of that was very satisfying to see in a live action setting. Of course, the finale there, the Darksaber. As I had mentioned before, Moff Gideon didn't feel like that big of a threat. Then after seemingly dying, like it was so insane to see him whip out the Darksaber, because at first like I was like, oh okay, he is introduced in episode 7 and is seemingly the overarching antagonist, and then he's eliminated by episode 8. But now, like after that, seeing him come back with the Darksaber, it's like, oh okay, this is like a real threat now, and he's actually a danger. And like season 2, he is going to be a big issue. That was a very satisfying ending in terms of that little cliffhangery bit there, and the way that it could totally set the stage for season 2 in terms of how the heck did he get the Darksaber? Does that mean Bo-Katan is dead? Is she alive? If she is, I would love to see her. And also just in terms of the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, like we know that they have this little bit of safety net here, but now it's like, okay, well, there's clearly going to be a lot more issues that they have to face, knowing that Moff Gideon is alive and how's the Darksaber. I love that ending, and I thought it was the perfect amount of closure and also cliffhangeriness. So yeah, I thought for me that was enough to just hold me over, but also it totally sets the stage for any number of possibilities of the way that season 2 can go, and I'm so excited, and I really hope that we do get to maybe see some more Clone Wars or Rebels characters like Bo-Katan, or just to learn what happened there. Like that would be insane. All right guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I would love to hear your guys' opinions of what you thought of the series. Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys as always. As always, I hope you guys have been doing well. I hope 2020 has been treating you all fabulously so far, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.